The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is Florida Man News, the worst headlines from the Sunshine State on the Florida Podcast Network. I'm your host, Joel Lounds. Coming up in this episode, Florida man stabs a student over a stolen strudel. Florida woman fails the wardrobe section of the bar exam. Florida man gets galled at a golf game and punches his partner's pate. And Florida man drops some goop on his neighbor's stoop. Plus, Florida man trivia, and much, much more. Our lead story tonight. A Florida man was attacked by a 7-foot alligator while walking around a motel on Tuesday after mistaking it for a dog. At approximately 12:45 a.m., the 49-year-old man was walking through the front garden of a Sarasota County motel when he noticed something in the bushes. While there are an estimated 1.3 million alligators living throughout all 67 counties in Florida, experts say serious injuries caused by unprovoked alligator attacks are rare, with the chances of a Florida resident being seriously injured from an unprovoked alligator attack being roughly 1 in 3.1 million. Since the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission started tracking human alligator incidents in 1948, there have been 442 unprovoked bites, with 26 resulting in fatalities. The Florida man said he mistook the 7-foot-long alligator for a wandering dog before he was attacked. The injured man has since been released from the hospital. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office said the man was a guest at the motel, and during his midnight stroll, the man allegedly saw the alligator's silhouette running through the bushes, but assumed it was a dog with a long leash, which is why he did not move out of the way. After a cursory search of online pet stores, Florida Man News was unable to locate a dog leash brand as thick as an alligator tail. However, we were able to find several sellers of alligator hides on Amazon.com, which could be used to create a do-it-yourself leash. The gator then approached the man, biting him on the leg and pulling on his muscle tissue. When the man escaped the gator's grasp, he said he felt it rip out a chunk of his leg. Luckily, a Sarasota County deputy was nearby the attack for a separate call when he heard the man's screams. The deputy contacted EMS, and the Florida man was taken to a nearby hospital and has since been released. A police sergeant was able to capture the alligator, which was removed from the scene by an alligator trapper. FWC said the gator is being transferred to a nearby farm that processes alligators for hide and meat. So there is a chance that the Florida man could take a bite out of the alligator that took a bite out of him. In Florida, it is illegal to kill, harass, or feed alligators without an appropriate permit. Individuals who encounter an alligator they think could be dangerous should contact the FWC's Nuisance Alligator Program hotline at 1-866-FWC-GATOR. That's 1-866-392-4286. In an unrelated but similar story, police in Largo, Florida are currently investigating another incident involving a Florida gator where a man is suspected of being killed by an alligator while looking for lost frisbees. Florida Man News assumes it was the man and not the alligator who was searching for the missing discs. In Not So Proud Now, Are Ya Boys news. The former Florida leader of the Proud Boys, along other leaders of the far-right domestic terrorist group, is charged with seditious conspiracy in the Capitol riot as of last Monday, court documents show. A federal jury indicted Joseph Biggs of Ormond Beach and 4 other Proud Boys members with seditious conspiracy and conspiracy to prevent an officer from discharging any duties, 2 of the most serious charges to come out of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot investigation, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Another Florida man, former Proud Boys leader Enrique Henry Tarrio of Miami, along with Ethan Nordine of Auburn, Washington, Zachary Rell of Philadelphia, and Dominic Pezzola of Rochester, New York, also faced the same charges. According to court documents, federal prosecutors said Biggs called for a revolution and Tarrio called for war and planned to interrupt President Joe Biden's 2020 electoral victory during the coordinated attack on the U.S. Capitol. All 5 men were previously charged with different conspiracy counts, but the latest insurrection-related indictments are among the most serious filed so far. According to the indictment, Biggs also took a video in which he surveyed the crowd and stated, quote, "We've taken the Capitol," unquote. They join 11 members or associates of the anti-government Oath Keepers terrorist group, including its founder and leader Stuart Rhodes, who were indicted in January on seditious conspiracy charges in the Capitol attack. Florida leads the nation with the number of residents arrested in connection with the traitorous attacks on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, according to data provided earlier this year by the U.S. Department of Justice. The government said that more than 800 arrests have been made so far in connection to the events at the Capitol building. In senior sluggers news, the Villages bills itself as Florida's friendliest retirement hometown, but things weren't so friendly at De La Vista Golf Course recently. A golf outing between two friends turned violent when a 77-year-old Florida man allegedly punched his 84-year-old playing partner in the face, leading to an arrest on a charge of battery on a person 65 years or older, according to Sumter County deputies. The Florida man later entered a plea of not guilty, according to court documents filed in late May. According to the arrest affidavit, the skirmish happened April 29th. Deputies say a third member of the golf outing witnessed the two Florida men arguing on the fourth hole. The man says it wasn't uncommon for the two to bicker. As things escalated, the 84-year-old Florida man flipped off his younger counterpart, who then said, quote, "Do that again and I will hit you," unquote, according to the affidavit. The friend did it again, and the Florida man reportedly then punched that man in the face. The 84-year-old fell to the ground, and deputies say he then had to be taken to the hospital, where it was reported he had a bruise on his face. The Villages has a reputation for stories of grandparents gone wild, with the New York Post calling the gated community, quote, "ground zero for geriatrics who are seriously getting it on," unquote. Florida Man News was unable to determine if the brawling golfers were fighting over the game or something more sordid that took place off the course. In student stabber news, two roommates fought over a popular breakfast treat in Central Florida early Monday, and one ended up behind bars. According to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, a deputy responded to the Nightshade student living community near the University of Central Florida in Orlando shortly after midnight. The officer made contact with an individual in the living room who said his roommate had stabbed him following a dispute over food. Quote, "The two were arguing about past incidents where someone ate a toaster strudel," unquote, said the report pertaining to the Pillsbury snack whose slogan is "Something Better Just Popped Up." The victim told the deputy that during the altercation, the Florida man first slapped his cell phone out of his hand and used pepper spray. While the victim was washing the irritant off his face at the sink, the 21-year-old allegedly lunged at him from behind with a metal pot, subsequently pulling out a pocket knife. The violent incident was caught on video, according to a police report. In the footage, investigators heard the Florida man calling his roommate a slur, meaning a female dog, and a, quote, "criminal," before allegedly attacking him. Quote, "Don't make me use this. I'm going to stab you," the suspect is heard saying on the video. A third roommate witnessed the fight and corroborated the story told by the victim, who was treated on the scene for a, quote, "deep gash," unquote, to his hand and forearm. The Florida man was arrested and charged with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, battery, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The student was briefly held on a $6,500 bond. A representative for UCF said it had no affiliation with the off-campus housing complex. Florida Man News contacted Pillsbury for comment, but our emails were unanswered at the time of this recording. And now it's time for our weekly Florida Man Trivia question. Here's this week's question. Florida is famous for its beaches, both on the Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic Ocean. What rank is Florida out of all 50 states for length of coastline, and approximately how many miles is the Florida coastline? I'll have the answer after this message from our sponsor.
Flintstone Media has been the digital messaging bedrock of several brands and businesses, serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house and consultancy firm for over 6 years. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. From show development and setup through recording and distribution, work with a leader in the industry and add a new podcast to your brand's content offerings. That's flintstonemedia.com.
And now the answer to the Florida Man trivia question. Once again, that question was, Florida is famous for its beaches both on the Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic Ocean. What rank is Florida out of all 50 states for length of coastline, and approximately how many miles is the Florida coastline? The answer is, there are several methods for calculating coastline length depending on how finely you measure the shoreline. Two popular methods are used by the Congressional Research Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and Florida ranks second, behind Alaska, for both methods. Florida's CRS coastal length is 1,350 miles, and its NOAA measurement is 8,436 miles. So if you guessed somewhere in between those two, count yourself as correct. If you'd like to sponsor Florida Man Trivia, go to floridapodcastnetwork.com/contact and send us a message today. In I'd Call That a Speed Don't news, a 65-year-old Florida man was arrested Tuesday for allegedly exposing himself to a female beachgoer, according to a police report. Investigators say the flasher was busted Tuesday afternoon for indecent exposure following an incident at Sunset Beach in Tarpon Springs, a suburb of Tampa. The Florida man was in the water, quote, about knee-deep wearing a Speedo, unquote, when he pulled down the front of his swimsuit and exposed his genitals. The Florida man was allegedly, quote, holding it in his hand, unquote, while staring and grinning at the 28-year-old victim who was on the beach. The woman and the Florida man, quote, had both made eye contact, and the victim described his penis as being large, 7 to 8 inches, and it was similar in color to his body, which was tanned, unquote, an officer reported, without noting that the description contradicted itself with the dimensions and the word large. A witness told police that they saw the Florida man, quote, with his hands at his crotch, unquote, but did not see him expose himself. When questioned by Tarpon Springs cops, the suspect, quote, denied anything happened and stated he did not intentionally expose himself to anyone, unquote. Charged with exposure of sexual organs, a misdemeanor, the Florida man was released from the county jail after posting a $150 bond. In another naked Florida man news, a Florida man was arrested in Monroe County after breaking into a home and later found nude in a bathtub by the homeowner, say police. According to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, the 24-year-old Summerlin Key resident was arrested Wednesday and charged with burglary and property damage. According to the Sheriff's Office, a deputy responded to a home on the 300 block of Avenue D at approximately 12:17 p.m. regarding a burglary in process. When the deputy arrived, the birthday-suited bathroom burglar was surrounded by the homeowner and neighbors. The Florida man was detained and refused to talk to the deputy. The homeowner stated he and his wife were at a neighbor's home when he received a motion alert on his phone's home security app. Cameras at the home captured the footage of the Florida man unsuccessfully trying to open the front door of the residence. The Florida man then leaves the camera frame and walks toward a window. The homeowner then went to his home, retrieved a firearm, and found the Florida man nude in a bathroom. That's when he called 911. A nearby window, left slightly ajar, was found fully open and damaged. The buck-naked bandit was then taken to jail. In Seriously Another Naked Florida Man news, a Florida man is accused of using a glass table on his neighbor's porch as a toilet while in the buff. Deputies arrested the Clearwater man on Friday afternoon after they say he damaged personal property when he defecated on his neighbor's porch. Deputies say the Florida man, who was naked at the time, was seen on home security footage walking up his neighbor's driveway and committing the dirty deed. According to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, the Florida man was still in the nude when authorities found him at his RV. Deputies say he was uncooperative when they spoke to him about the incident. The Florida man has been charged with misdemeanor criminal mischief. In at least this one is a naked Florida woman news. After she was refused service by a bar manager, a drunken Florida lawyer went into the restroom and then emerged, quote, unclothed and completely naked, unquote, according to police who charged her with disorderly conduct. According to an arrest report, the 49-year-old Florida woman entered the beach lounge in St. Pete Beach around 2:15 a.m. Friday, but was, quote, intoxicated to the point the manager refused to serve her, unquote. Instead of departing, the Florida woman, quote, walked into the restroom and then came back out into the bar, unclothed and completely naked, unquote. When the bare-assed barrister refused the manager's request to get dressed, police were summoned. Upon arriving at the bar, a Pinellas County sheriff noticed that the Florida woman was still naked and had to be repeatedly told to get dressed. But the attorney would only put on a hoodie, which she did not zip up. The Florida woman claimed she was too tired to put on her pants. Her naked antics played out in front of several bar patrons, police reported. Charged with disorderly conduct, the bald legal eagle was booked into county jail, from which she was later released on her own recognizance. The Florida woman, who was admitted to the Florida bar in 2001, is also a licensed real estate broker. Florida Man News was unable to determine if she is showing properties other than her personage. In finally someone who was wearing pants news. A Pinellas County man who asked police for a ride home early Thursday morning was arrested after officers found several bags of drugs in his pockets, according to arrest documents. Officers with the St. Petersburg Police Department said the 27-year-old Florida man was laying on the sidewalk of 22 Avenue North near 28th Street North around 4:30 a.m. when he refused medical care. Police said the Florida man then began to walk and eventually skateboard away in the middle of the road. Concerned that the Florida man may not be able to find his way home and being, quote, borderline disorderly intoxicated in public, unquote, an officer made sure that the man was okay while he was still in the area. Officers said the Florida man then asked for a ride home. The officer asked the Florida man if he had anything illegal on him before he entered the rear of the police cruiser. Arrest documents said the Florida man began to voluntarily empty his pockets when he removed marijuana and 3 bags of cocaine. Officers said the man then attempted to hide the drugs, which he would not have had to do had he left them in his pocket in the first place. The Florida man was charged with possession of marijuana and possession of powder cocaine. Bond was set at a combined $2,150. It's almost time for our final story, but first, Florida Man News is a production of the Florida Podcast Network. Our executive producer is Jemmy Legagneur. You can find the show in your favorite podcast app or at floridapodcastnetwork.com, on Instagram and Twitter at FLPodcastNet, and you can find me at Joel from Florida. That's at Joel from FL. You can join our Florida Podcast Network Facebook group. Just search for FPN Insiders to get more info on Florida Man News and all of our other shows, like the Florida Beer Podcast, where host Dave Butler of the Florida Beer Blog brings you news and interviews from the Florida craft beer community. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show in your podcast app so you never miss an episode. And please tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way for podcasts like Florida Man News to grow our audience. Florida Man News is provided for entertainment purposes only. Any similarity to actual persons living or dead or actual events is purely coincidental. No warranty or professional relationship is implied and no refunds will be granted. Views expressed on this program are solely the opinions of the individuals who express them and do not imply an endorsement by our sponsors, spouses, families, employers, ourselves, or the Florida Board of Tourism. Thanks for listening to Florida Man News. Here's our final story for the week. One Florida Marvel fan has taken things a bit far, watching Spider-Man No Way Home a record-breaking 292 times. According to the Guinness World Records, Ramiro Alanis has reclaimed the record for the most cinema productions attended for the same film after watching Spider-Man No Way Home 292 times between December 2021 and March 2022. That's over 720 hours of Spider-Mania. He previously held the same record for 191 viewings of Avengers Endgame, but was subsequently beaten by Arnaud Klein, who watched Camelot First Installment 204 times. Obviously, Ramiro was disappointed by the news that he had lost the world record and decided to go for another attempt in honor of his grandmother who had died in 2019 before she could see his original world record attempt. Quote, "She was my number one supporter and I want to remain the record holder," he said. "If anyone tries to break my record again, I want them to think twice before attempting it," unquote. Since Alanis is a Florida man, I would consider that a threat. If you're thinking of giving it a go yourself, the rules are pretty grueling. First of all, each viewing must be completely independent of any other activity. That means no using your phone, taking a nap, and absolutely no bathroom breaks. Additionally, the film must be watched to completion every time. That includes the credits and any post-credit scenes, as well as every ticket stub being submitted as evidence. A statement was also taken from a theater attendant after every viewing to confirm that Ramiro had watched the film from start to finish. Ramiro started by watching back-to-back screenings of Spider-Man No Way Home for 3 whole months until it left theaters. That meant a total of 5 screenings a day for the first few weeks, or 12 hours, 20 minutes per day. Although he didn't keep track of his costs, Ramiro estimates he spent around $3,400 on movie tickets for this record-breaking feat. Quite a large amount for one person to contribute towards the film's $1.8 billion haul. That's the news from the shady side of the Sunshine State. We'll be back next week with another heaping pile of Florida man news.